Well, we're about to embark on part two of our Maxwell's Silver Hammer two-part Ghislaine Maxwell podcast extravaganza. And the rest of this podcast is mostly going to be one of our famous sentencing post-mortems, where Mark Allenbaugh and I go back in time to her sentencing and sort of dissect each side and how they did and how the sentence ended up to be what it was. But last episode, I had to update it because things are moving fast in real time, and she had that 2 day meeting with Todd Blanche. And so we talked about that up front. And so this time I had to invite my good friend and colleague and expert in all things BOP, Walt Pavlo from prisonology.com, to talk about the latest development in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, which is that she was just moved to a minimum security camp. Hello, Walt Pavlo. Good morning. It's Saturday. Thank you for being here this morning.
You're welcome, Attorney Douglas Passon.
And just for the listeners, Walt is big time. He's fresh off of the Steve Bannon's War Room podcast. He was on there to talk about First Step Act stuff. And guess what? I'm going to be having Walt back on the podcast in the very, very near future to talk about all things First Step Act and all that goings on there. But today, I just wanted you to break it down because when I looked at this transfer, very fortuitous timing, but also I wanted you're very familiar with the classification system and what it takes to get into a camp. She's moved to a camp. So tell us real quick, like, where is she? What's it like? And is this kosher? Should she be there?
She,
Does anything seem a little off, is what I'm asking you.
well, I would say it seems a little off. So when the Bureau of Prisons, they look at the pre-sentence report, and when they look at it, they score, by security classification to, like which prison do they belong in. But there's something extra that they add, and Ghislaine probably would have been a minimum camp, with her points. She's never been in trouble before. Yeah, she had some, really bad, human trafficking. Not good, right, Doug? I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
But they also add a public safety factor on for sex offenders. They do this for males and females. There's also another public safety factor that they add on for length of sentence. That's just for males. They don't do it for females. She had obviously a 20-year sentence, so but she didn't get that other one. But she does have the sex offender. Of all of the public safety factors, and I checked with Shannon Race, who works for us, who worked at the designation center. I asked her, have you ever seen a public safety factor for sex offender waived? In 21 years of working at the DSCC, she's never seen or heard of one. So
Hmm.
this is extremely rare. I've actually worked on cases, Doug. This is one of these cases where it does cause concern. Like, why did this happen? Is this all politics? You just really don't want to see that edging in.
Not for nothing. The BOP is part of the DOJ, right? So basically, the same person, Todd Blanche, who's number two in the Department of Justice, it's completely within the realm of possibility that one phone call from a high up in the DOJ and she gets yes, sir, and right away, sir, public safety factor waived.
Well, the
Did I get
proper
that
proceed
right?
you
Yeah.
absolutely did, and you're bringing up a really good point there, Doug. Is that the process by which you would go to have it removed would you would go to your case manager, you'd put in the administrative remedy, right? You write out the BP8,
Yeah.
30 days, for the person to respond. Then it goes to the warden, and the warden could say, hey, you know what? I think that I'm going to waive a public safety factor. Mind you, that's never happened before,
Never in
but you can
history.
go through it.
Right.
Um, and if the warden were to say, you know what, I've looked at it, probably you could be better managed at a minimum security camp. I'm going to approve it. It would then go to the designation center in Grand Prairie, Texas. They too would review it, and then they would, and then they would say, "Yep, we approve it." Then they would say, "All right, I approved it. Let's get the person in a bus so that they can go through the JPATS, the transportation system, and we'll get them to a prison." You're talking about, even if things went smooth, it would be 6 months,
Yeah.
to get to the prison camp, if it ever happened before, which it hasn't. And I looked yesterday, and it said Ghislaine Maxwell not in BOP custody, which means she's in transit. Okay, when I looked this morning, She's in Bryan, Texas. So
Wow.
she not only, did it, she get it waived, the public safety factor waived to go to a camp. They moved her in one day.
I'm so interested to know how she got there. Probably they put her on a nice plane and flew, because our clients will go to a hub like
Right.
Atlanta or Texas, and it's horrible, and they would languish in there until there's enough people to throw on Con Air and send them to a place. I mean,
It can
so
take weeks or months.
yeah,
It's
okay.
really you and I both know the horror stories of
So it's
those.
unprecedented. Never in the history has a public safety factor been waived, and unprecedented speed, alacrity to get her from Florida to Texas into this facility. So last point, everyone's kind of making hay about camps and how cushy they are, and
Right.
I have a mixed emotions about that because there are some camps that may fit that bill, but it's also an older world where they had adequate staffing and things. And no prison, period, is going to be a picnic, but this is clearly nicer conditions than where she was, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I don't like to get into comparisons of Camp Cupcake and Club Fed and all this other stuff. Being in prison is really difficult. We wouldn't want to make light of that. But the thing that I think that she gets in this is a higher quality of inmate, basically, right? I mean, these are going to be people with shorter sentences, typically,
Yeah.
more nonviolence. When you're in women's prisons, you're in our low. There's a lot of people with long criminal histories, and so
Yeah.
she obviously wanted out of there. You know what's even more interesting about this, though, Doug? I was thinking about this is a person not only had a sex offense, but was a fugitive from
Uh-huh.
justice to start with. Okay.
Right.
And
With
has
dual triple citizenship. She's got still got citizenship in France and England, I think.
correct, and lots of money and lots of contacts all over the world. It would
Right.
be like she was held pre-trial.
Yeah.
She couldn't even make bond.
Yeah.
Before trial. I mean, they held her and it's like, hey, you have all these, different, like you said, different citizenships and money, and you can get a private plane and get out of here. And she's been in prison, and now she got a public safety factor waive. And I guess they're not even concerned that she was once a fugitive from justice.
Well,
So
and these are facilities that either don't have fences or walls at all or minimal, and they get to go outside the perimeter quite often, right? So,
that's correct. That's
okay.
correct. She
So
could even, hey,
here,
she could have a job at a prison camp as like the town driver, driving people to and from the airport. I mean, it's hard to believe they could give her keys to a vehicle and she could be out. I mean, that's a job in prison. So
okay, so here's my wacky conspiracy theory. They are going to say they moved her there for her safety because it'll be easier people, less violent people, and she's a target now. And I had no idea that she would just walk off and never be heard from again.
well,
She's gonna get on the private plane and get back to France, and she's gonna be kicking it with Roman Polanski, where they can't extradite her. Game over. It's easier than 3 minutes of missing footage in a jail cell video, but that's just my conspiracy brain. Who
Doug,
knows?
I'll add the other thing too is that like they don't even call them escapes in prison camps. They call them walkaways. Okay, so I mean, so it's possible that she could walk away. I mean,
Okay.
this is it is definitely it's definitely odd.
Well, we'll have to see. That's my theory, where she's just going to disappear into the ether, never to be heard from again. So that's, you
Well, what I
know,
hope that happens on this, Doug, though, is that I always see the pendulum of justice sort of swing. This is an oddity. I hope that it doesn't continue to be an oddity. We
yeah,
work on a lot of different cases. There are young, particularly men that get involved in child pornography, and they you have sex offenses. They go to prison. These folks can be handled in a camp, as you well know.
absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
wish that the Bureau of Prisons would look at this as saying, hey, we need to start looking at this for other people, because I'm convinced. I know we've joked about it. Maxwell, she's probably going to get a pardon or something anyway, or some other way that she's going to get out of this. She can most likely be managed at a camp, just like a lot of
Yes.
other people. I hope that the Bureau of Prisons learns from this and said, well, maybe so we just don't look like we're just doing this as a favor, which we are.
Yeah.
Let's maybe
Well,
make
yeah,
this part of our
let's
policy.
let's use this for our clients to say, great. we more of that, please. And why, if her, why
Right.
not me? And of course, that's my biggest beef is that it seems like you have to have some connections or cash or something to get special consideration nowadays. But maybe there is hope that we can use this as an
I
example and
Hey,
say, why
I'm going to
not
use it.
us?
I'm
Yeah,
going to use it. I'm definitely
yeah.
going to use it
All
in what
right.
we do. So
Good. All right. Well, thank you, my friend. And I can't wait till we're back together again to talk about First Step Act
that's
and
great.
go enjoy your Saturday. I appreciate you this
You
morning.
too. You
Okay.
too. Thanks,
Take
Todd.
care.
See ya.
Over 1 million Americans face sentencing every year, and it will be the most important day of their lives. But we don't fully understand the system, how broken it is, and what we can do to make it better. I'm Doug Passon. I'm a 25-year criminal defense lawyer and a sentencing expert. My goal is to bring more awareness, more fairness, and more humanity to the sentencing process. So, are you ready? Then let's get set for sentencing.
Let's do sentencing post-mortem. Yeah, I have the stats I could talk about for another 3 hours. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know, are you at your home right now?
Yes.
Have there been any apparitions? Has there been any bleeding walls? Is that
No, no bleeding. No bleeding walls. No bumps or anything. That usually happens like around 2 a.m.
Oh,
Yeah.
isn't that something? Why is that the ghosts always wait till the middle of the fucking night to show themselves? Like, why not hang out at dinner time or happy hour? It makes no sense to me.
Oh, we've had. Yeah. No, I take that back. We've had some weird doors open just all of a sudden when there's no gusts and or close. And the windows have been closed otherwise, and yeah. So
Alexa's,
sometimes they do.
can you
But
ask
I guess they're taking
Alexa?
Sunday afternoon off.
Do you think Alexa could perform an exorcism like remotely?
I'll
No.
have to try that. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
I really want to see the house, but please don't ask me to stay the night. Sounds like you have a lot of guest rooms, though.
Yeah, yeah, there's guest rooms and other rooms, and yeah,
But here's the thing: I'm
there's parts
teasing.
I haven't even been to yet.
I want to see the secret tunnels, but I will say this: as much as I'm teasing you, I fully believe in this ghost nonsense because it's not nonsense. And I'll tell you a quick story.
Just don't tell
As
me there's something behind me.
well, you've got the fake background.
Oh,
I
true,
wouldn't
true,
know.
true, true. That'd really freak
Just,
me out
but
if
if
there's
it,
something
yeah, if it
behind me there.
showed up on the, um,
Uh,
so since we're already an hour and 36 minutes into this, why not
Jeez.
digress? But when my wife and I were young married couple, she's from the East Coast, and we decided it'd be fun to go to Salem,
Oh yeah.
Massachusetts to tool around and spend a night and everything else. And we spent the night in this old hotel bed and breakfast, whatever it was, like super as old as your home, probably older. Pictures of the old sea captains on the wall and all this shit, and like it was freaky deaky to the max, and it was pretty empty. Didn't seem to be a real hopping place, but we got in our room and we went to bed, and the room was creepy and weird, but fun. It's Salem, right? We'd gone to the
Mm.
witch trial museum. We did a whole experience. Anyway, Rach and I both got awakened in the middle of the night because a couple of unruly guests we heard like laughing, like giggling, screaming, slamming doors. It was like they just came back from the bar and they were just all fucked up and we're like,
Okay.
"Oh, that's cool." Anyway, so we eventually got back to bed and we went down for breakfast the next morning. There's nobody at breakfast. And the woman, old woman with big gray hair, pulled up in a bun and an old like like Little House on the Prairie dress, is pouring us coffee, and we're like, well, somebody had a wild night last night. And she goes, "What do you mean?" We're like, we told her the thing and the young couple and the thing, and she looked at us. She goes, "You're the only guests in
Oh,
the hotel last night."
Jesus. I thought I was going there.
Yeah,
Oh man. Ooh,
yeah,
God, that
yeah,
gives me chills. That's
yeah, yeah. That's a true story. So yeah, I would, if I would sell that house, I'd get the fuck out of there. I'd go down. I don't know. I'd go get. I'd go live in a yurt by Lake Erie or some shit if I were you. Bad stuff, man. I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
this never
Well,
ends well.
I think we have a ton of Amish. There are a ton of Amish around here. I hear them clopping out front all the time. They come by with their buggies and all that.
Wait, are those real people or ghost people?
No, real Amish. They're real Amish.
Okay,
It's
that
just
adds a whole other
if
layer of
one, yes,
awesome
if
come to your
one
house.
ever shows up at the door like that one guy from Poltergeist 2, that's when I'm out of here.
Oh, I remember that.
I'm just waiting. You know who
And
I'm
he goes,
talking
"You're
about.
all gonna die in there."
Yes, right. Yeah, weird, creepy smile.
Mm.
That's yeah.
Do you have
That's when
like a
I'm gone.
pet cemetery out back too?
I don't know. We might.
The soil of a man's heart is stonier, Lewis. Do you remember that movie, the book, Stephen King,
No.
Pet Cemetery?
Oh, Pet Cemetery. I never
Yeah.
saw it. No.
Fred Gwynn, I think, was in
Oh,
that. Anyway.
Herman Munster.
Okay. Yeah, you're it's not gonna end well, that's all I'm saying. But I hope it does, because I don't want to lose you. Sentencing postmortem. So we do.
Okay.
Why not? So
Yes.
we always do this
Do it.
because Ghislaine Maxwell went to trial, and she, was sentenced. She's serving her sentence. So we always sort of are interested in what was the advocacy, like what did each side say at the sentencing hearing? What were their written pleadings? What were their sentencing memos like? What
Yeah.
happened there? And so you pulled the sentencing memos for each side, the
Mm.
sentencing transcript, and we've all read them. And so, what do you think? Like, how did that go?
Well, no stats.
No.
She was so she got 20 years. Most individuals, even in sex crimes, receive sentences at the bottom of the range, or more frequently now in the guideline or the Booker era, below the range.
Yeah.
So just getting a sentence at the bottom of the range is really a de facto upward departure, because it's going to be more than what most individuals receive.
Hmm.
She got a sentence 5 months above the top of the range, which was,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really high. Just statistically, the individuals similar to her, she was sentenced under 2G 1.1. There isn't sufficient data, according to Jason. But if you just look at 2G, all the 2Gs combined, she was at an offense level 36. I think that the average sentence was somewhere in the neighborhood of around 180 months. So she got 5 years more than what individuals typically receive.
Yeah.
So that, so I was surprised there wasn't data
Yeah.
in there. There was no argument about that. And they spent, I thought, too much time on arguing about her pre-sentencing detention. She was in I think the MDC, and
Yeah.
it's not a fun place to be, and it's
Yeah.
awful, et cetera, et cetera. But that's where everybody spends their time if they're in a pretrial detention.
Yeah.
And the government came back in its sentencing memo and said two things. One, well, of course, a rich woman's going to think. I mean, this is basically what it said. Of course, a rich woman's going to say it's a shithole,
Yeah.
and so they pointed out her privilege. And second, they also pointed out her privilege, that she got a lot of privileges that were not afforded to typical inmates. So rather than having it worse than most, she had it better than most. And obviously, that didn't carry the day with the judge either way.
Well,
It
you know what?
still
I
depends.
think so. This is where I may
Yeah.
digress from you.
Okay.
I think you might be right that they spent a little too much time on it, but I think they were absolutely right to dig into that
I think they were
because
right to dig into it. I just,
a
yeah.
lot of lawyers raise that, and a lot of judges are on board with that because they know that it's not every pretrial detention facility, but
Yeah.
this one specifically
Right.
was
It's awful.
notorious. And
Yeah.
it's not even, it's closed. I mean, it's gone. It's so
Yeah.
bad they had to shut it down. And
Yeah.
there's a sister facility, MCC, down the road, and it's the
Yeah.
same deal. And there are published opinions that say
Yeah.
this is like a third world gulag. They called this place the Guantanamo of New York or something like that. Like, this is a shithole.
Mm.
So I do feel like not only were they right to really dig into it, but I think that, well, the judge made mention of it. I think that did matter to her. I'll see if I can find the place in the transcript. Here, she on page. Okay, look, I've done my homework. Aren't you proud of me?
Yeah.
Page 94. Conditions that, this is what the judge says. Conditions at MDC are, to put it mildly, not what they should be. And serving time during the pandemic has been more difficult than serving time before it. As I have in other sentencings, I take into account this in opposing so in opposing in imposing an appropriate sentence. So
Yeah.
I think that mattered to her, and that was a very credible argument.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
not for nothing, the government's response was douchey as all fuck, because they're saying, "Oh, well, a woman who led such a life of luxury and privilege, of course, would have problems being in jail." Well, they know full well that anybody, no matter what her life was,
Hmm.
anybody in there is getting the short end. It's horrible. So
Yeah.
they should have just rolled over and said, "We know MDC is horrible for anyone," and let it go. I think they lost, and I have nice things to say about some of the government's arguments.
Hmm.
I'll get to it,
Yeah.
lest anyone think I'm biased against prosecutors. But I think this was an argument they lost credibility on, because they just chose the douchey, she's lived a life of privilege route, when
Yeah.
they really should have just given up the ghost on that little sliver of this, on this piece. That's what I think. But at the end of the day, the judge took into account. And by the way, yes, your stats are super important in every case, but this is not every case, in a sense. Like,
Well, I mean,
this
that's
is
the
a case
point.
of all cases.
Yeah,
And the
but that's
government was asking for 30, they wanted
yeah,
a range of 30 to 55 years.
right, right.
She got
But
20.
that's where yeah, but that's still an upward departure.
It is.
And
But
I.
some very, very rare cases, they're going to get, it was a tiniest upward departure. And if this were a run of the mill case, those stats should be absolutely ruling the day.
Your
But this
Honor,
is the
this was
Epstein
not,
case.
Your Honor. We are in the Booker era. You do not measure the upward departure by the guideline range. You measure it by the mean and the median. And this was 5 years above what somebody typically
Yeah.
receives. So this was a significant
Yes.
upward departure,
But
not
this
just
is
five
this is
months.
where the stats are in conflict with the story. And
How so?
well, because the power of narrative rests in the specifics. And this is where I believe the government really did shine,
Mm,
and know and understand their persuasive power, which is they went into the granular details of how many victims there were and how badly they suffered
mhm,
and how long it went on. It's not an isolated incident, and they really painted the human picture of the trauma and the abuse and the trafficking and everything else behind it, so that when it came time to say, yeah, normally the stats are we should be below guideline, this is not. This is an outlier, and rightly so, because of the facts. The facts were the things that wagged the dust. Now, one could say it's a high profile nature of this because the whole world is looking at it, and no judge is about to give a below guideline sentence in a case with this much baggage and, you know, you know, scrutiny on it. That's what I think. So she gave a little bit of a departure, but it was the smallest upward variance that you could ever imagine in a case. So it was almost like she was saying, yeah, I can't. The optics would be so sour
Uh,
for me to go low.
Your Honor, before you impose that 20 years, do you want to know what the median sentence for murder is? Yes, this was a very serious offense, but do you want to know what the median sentence for murder last year was? 20 years also. So you're sentencing her as if she murdered somebody. The stats
Okay.
make a difference here.
All
So,
right.
and yeah,
Well,
and yes, Your Honor, yes, this was a very, very serious offense. But let's look at what other serious offenders receive. Sexual abuse. I would say this is sexual abuse, Your Honor. Would you not agree? Yes, sexual abuse. The median sentence for
of
sexual abuse
of
last
minors. of
Okay, this
children.
includes sexual abuse of minors.
Yeah.
There was 1,000. This is 1,020 sentencings last year. The
Mm-hmm.
median sentence was 188 months.
Yeah.
The mean was 209 months. And oh yes, Your Honor, you know that life expectancy analysis that we did not do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even at 188 months, Your Honor, it's a de facto life sentence. So remember that 3553 commandment from Congress that says you're to impose a sentence that's sufficient but not greater than necessary, that's never necessary for you to impose. But, and this is just de facto, I mean, this is just by definition, it's never necessary for you to impose a sentence greater than the life expectancy of a defendant. It is never, you're not going to achieve anything as a result of that. That is just vindictive. But by giving her even the median for sexual abuse, that's going to max out her life expectancy. As you can see from this chart that we neglected to present to you, and all of this evidence that we neglected to cite. You sentence her as if she killed somebody, murdered somebody,
Yeah.
and moreover, it's
Yeah.
beyond her life expectancy.
And
So
here's what I'm with you. I understand. I mean,
yeah.
but here's where I think the government did understand the power of narrative, and especially
They did a good job. I agree with you.
the idea of, listen, can I just read you the first paragraph of the government's memo?
Yes.
Because credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell played an instrumental role in the horrific sexual abuse of multiple young teenage girls. As
Yep.
part of a disturbing agreement with Jeffrey Epstein, Maxwell identified, groomed, and abused multiple victims while she enjoyed a life of extraordinary luxury and privilege. In her
Yeah.
wake,
Yeah.
Maxwell left her victims permanently scarred with emotional and psychological injuries. That damage can never be undone, but it can be accounted for in crafting a just sentence for Maxwell's crimes.
Very powerful. I mean, that's frankly excellent prose.
Excellent.
Excellent
And
prose. Very
credible
powerful. But
and true
my
prose.
point, I'm sorry, Doug, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
just my point is, I'm just trying to point out how deficient her attorney's sentencing submission was, because it didn't address all these issues, because it didn't have the data and the stats
Yeah.
and the arguments and the life expectancy, and it spent all
Yeah.
to me, I'm glad they did the right thing by addressing her
Yeah.
pre-sentencing detention, but to me they spent too much time on that and no time on what they should have been spending on too,
Yeah.
which was the stats, the data, and to argue that whatever the government was arguing was more
Yeah.
than what murderers receive.
Yeah.
I mean, a 30-year
Well,
sentence, by the way, just real quick. So recidivist murderers, that means they've murdered before or they've committed other offenses. Okay, murderers,
sometimes you just gotta kill.
yeah, just gotta
And
do it again.
more than once.
Criminal history category 6 for murder. Okay.
Yeah. Murder.
The average sentence is only 295 months. The median is only 270 months for murder.
Yeah,
And the
but you got
government wanted
240.
more than that. The government wanted more than that.
Yo, they wanted a lot more than that. So you can make an argument that that was a big win for the government, because, she would have only died in prison at the age of 80 instead of the age of 100. I don't know. But I will say this, I'm not dogging stats. 99.9% of the time, I'm saying stats can make the difference. I'm saying in this case, I don't know if the stats would have won the day, just because of this is the case. And we're still talking about this fucking case. Like, this tells you everything. This is not your normal situation. And we will never know. Hindsight is 2020. Maybe your stats would have won the day. I'm saying they almost always will, but I'm not convinced that they would here. That's it.
And maybe you're right. And, I'm not disputing that. Again, I'm just pointing out deficiencies. This is the post-mortem. Always have. Even if they don't win the day, it doesn't hurt. And by the way,
there's definitely no harm. There's definitely no reason they shouldn't have
she
presented
waived
these.
And by not including stats, just so everybody hears this, especially if you go to trial and if you don't argue stats, you waive it for appeal. Now you can't go, what are you going to say about substantive reasonableness?
Yeah.
Well, you waived that argument because you didn't argue it.
I'm with you.
sentencing.
There's zero
Yeah.
reason not to present stats here. I don't know if they would
Right.
help, but and there's zero reason for any lawyer in any federal criminal case not to do stats. And I'm not just saying that because you're the stats guy and that's your thing. Stats are a thing. They're building stats into the pre-sentence report. There's a lot
Right.
of times with deficient models, but the point
Yeah.
is everybody's looking at stats now. Judges are concerned about sentencing parity. If you are not looking at stats, you are missing something. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel completely confident in saying that. And
Yeah.
I agree with you that there's no reason they shouldn't have done that. They should have done it here. I don't know that's going to make the difference.
Right.
What I
Yeah.
don't agree with you is, well, I don't know if you actually said they were deficient in other ways, but I do think they did a lot
Mhm.
of, I mean, listen, this is a hard case. We got to
Oh
give
yeah.
our brothers and sisters in the defense world, like this is one of the hard ones, right?
Yeah.
How do you defend this person after they've been convicted of trial? And I do believe I don't think their pleadings or written work were as compelling as the government's. And let this go down in history. I'm giving great praise to the government, but they was pretty good because they did have a sort of a theme running through this, and it was Epstein's empty chair.
Mm. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
kept basically saying,
Yeah.
who the real bad guy is
Right.
here.
Yeah.
He's
And that was a good point. Yeah.
he's dead. He'll never be brought to justice. That doesn't mean that Ms. Maxwell should be a proxy for all the vengeance and all the rage and all the
Right.
revenge. And you have to put that aside. And they did that a lot in terms of this. They called it the government has a huge hole to fill, Epstein's empty chair. So,
Yeah.
and that, okay, so that's one great thing I loved about what they did.
Yeah.
And the other great thing is they went to great lengths in the pleading to tell her human story.
Yes,
And
they did do a good job with that. Yeah.
I learned stuff about Ms. Maxwell that I did not know before.
Mhm.
And pretty interesting stuff, like her skills and talents. She was a EMT. She was
Yeah.
a she was a pilot, a helicopter pilot. She was a banker, an entrepreneur, an environmentalist. She gave TED Talks. Like she was a real kind of global, putting aside all the grooming and abuse and the psychological injuries and the
Yeah. I
car
don't
rape.
know how much the pilot stuff helps, but
But it just said that that's not that all that
flying
shouldn't
girls to
shouldn't
the
define
islands,
her. She
Mhm.
did a lot of good things. She had a lot of
Yeah.
trauma in her life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was easy to understand how she could be under sort of the spell of a charismatic guy like Epstein, and she did a lot of bad stuff, but she's done a lot of good stuff too. And in
Yeah.
every single case where we have listen, a client is not going to be our client unless they've done something bad or
Right.
wrong or illegal. And so,
Allegedly.
well, allegedly, but by the time we get to sentencing,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
probably not
They've
alleged.
usually admitted to it. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So it is incumbent on us to say, yes, maybe this bad, but look at all the good. We call these our redemption narratives.
Right.
And a
Right.
lot of lawyers don't bother to tell
Right.
that side of the story. And these folks did, and I give them credit for it.
Yeah.
So, and then they got to a little bit of boilerplate about guidelines, but that was way down. It was page 16. It was only a small little bit of sliver. So I give
Mhm.
them, I'm going to give them like a B plus on this. I mean, I think the only thing they fell down on was what you mentioned, stats, life
Yeah.
expectancy. I'm giving
I
the
just,
government an A, but
yeah.
you know, and again, the power of storytelling rests in the specifics. They went into the most granular details of the truth of what these victims suffered at Epstein's hands, but they really said she was so instrumental in all this and getting these girls engaged in it. So
Mhm.
I don't know, man. It's really interesting. I do want to say this. I've been talking a lot. I don't know if you have thoughts, but there was one thing that's bothering me, and not just in this pleadings or the sentencing, but just in the whole discussion, the zeitgeist, if you will. The word that has been bandied about ubiquitously, is that a word? It's
It is.
and this word is not an enigma, but apparently it is an enigma. Pedophile. Everybody talks about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and uses the word
Yeah.
pedophile.
Incorrectly. At least under the
Exactly.
DSM-5. Yeah.
But it matters. It's not semantics, because yes, it's still
Well,
a crime, and yes, it's still horrible, and yes, it's still wrong. But a pedophile, look, people need to understand. Stop using that fucking word, because
yeah.
that's for
Prepubescent.
prepubescent
Mhm.
and a sexual attraction to prepubescent children. And this is what we would call, I guess, I don't even know how to pronounce it,
Hebophile.
hebophile. Yeah, a hebophile. That's a sexual attraction to early adolescence,
Pubescent. Yeah.
adolescent, pubescent, post-pubescent, not fully adult, but we're talking like 14 to 19-year-old, like,
Yeah.
and and so yes, it's illegal in most jurisdictions if they're under 18. Sometimes it's 16. But the point is, it's important to distinguish, because, you know, this is this is different. And pedophilia is a true psychiatric disorder.
Right.
But the other one is wrong, but it's not completely, it's not deviant in the way that pedophilia is deviant.
Right. Right.
And, that's why Britney Spears wears, the schoolgirl outfit when she sang, because people are attracted to post-pubescent young. That's just a thing. I'm not saying it's a
Hmm.
good thing or a bad thing, but it's a different thing than wanting to have a sexual attraction to
Hmm.
baby children. And I
Yeah.
just wish that people would not. Maybe I'm just hung up. I don't know. I think it matters. But two
I don't think,
hours,
I mean,
two
it
hours
doesn't
into
matter.
this, does it matter
Yes.
that
Yeah.
much?
Well, it doesn't
No.
matter in the court of public opinion, I think. I
But
think
it
that's,
should. That's what I'm saying.
well,
The,
yeah, well, that's
the
going to be up to the talking
wrongfulness
heads out
is the
there. Yeah, you're
abuse.
right.
The wrongfulness is the grooming. The wrongfulness is
Yeah.
taking advantage of these innocent children. The wrongfulness is the damage it does to them in the
Yes.
long term. But it's still a whole other thing
Yeah.
than pedophilia.
Hey,
And
before I forget, so one quick thing,
yeah,
I agree with you on what you said.
yeah,
So one of the things that I was happy not to see
uh-huh, yeah.
in the sentencing memo is zero mention of Booker.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
not one
That's what,
Booker.
right? Because
And
it's
it came
only
down to
been
one
20
paragraph.
years.
Yeah, one paragraph that just talked about Gall and Pew and
Yeah.
that and Nelson, and that was it. And just like their advisory, and this is the order you have to do it in. Okay,
Right.
great, perfect. Okay. I'm not, yeah, frankly, I don't even think that's necessary, but that it only occupied one paragraph. That's fantastic.
Kudos to them.
You and I have seen so long these recycled
Three, four
sentencing
pages.
memoranda they're going through it. And the guidelines are advisory now under United States Post Booker and
Uh-huh.
Apprendi and da 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 da. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Right. So yeah, that's why I give them relatively high marks. They get it. These lawyers understood. You
Yeah.
know what I thought was really interesting? Did you see in the sentencing transcript that when the defense lawyer stood up to make her presentation, she asked the judge, "Can I address the victims?" And she actually started out by turning around and addressing the victims that were in the courtroom personally, and basically saying, what did she say? Page 101. I want to acknowledge, this is Miss Sternheim. I don't know this person, but she said, I want to acknowledge the courage that all of you have exhibited in coming forward at the trial and again today. Your statements are immensely powerful. We feel the pain. We can only hope the end of this case and the sentence to be imposed will give you some solace and the sanctity that you have the ability to move forward and beyond all of this. And that is something we do not see very often. And it's a bold move, but I think it
Yeah,
was the
that is a
right
bold
move.
move.
I thought it was the
Yeah.
right move in this case.
Yeah.
And that's creative lawyering. It's not a
Yeah.
show, I don't think. I'd like to believe that that was sincere. They
Mhm.
understood. They're never going to get anywhere by saying these victims are full of shit. They're lying.
Right.
They're just
Yeah.
trying. So they have to acknowledge that there's been real human, carnage, and even Ms. Maxwell stood up and said similar things. She didn't admit to her role in it, but who would? That was the other thing the government was yelling at her for. Well, she didn't accept responsibility. Well, she went to fucking trial and she's got to
Right.
appeal. No
Right.
lawyer in the world is ever going to tell their client they need to accept
Right.
responsibility when they could be a new trial and all her statements could be used against her.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
thought that was a very kind of interesting thing. I don't know when the last time I've seen something like that.
I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen.
Well, it's only been 2 hours and 5 minutes, and I feel like we have to land this plane. But
Yes.
So Ghislaine,
The ghosts are starting to come out.
ask
Wondering where I
Alexa,
am.
Alexa, you're all gonna die in there. But I want to, Ms. Maxwell is French. She's from France, right? And in story, we
I thought she
have
was
some.
English, but
I thought she was French. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, in story, we have the resolution, we call it the denouement. It's a French term, I believe, which is sort of the
sounds French.
takeaway, the therefore. And
Okay.
we can bring it full circle to the fact that the reason we're doing this podcast is because
Yep.
everybody and their mother is talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein
Yep.
files and Trump and all this shit. So I gotta say, like, where is this going? What happens next? That's
Well,
that's that's what
I mean, I think statistically, most likely, the court's not going to take the case. So the petition for cert will be denied.
yeah,
I think there's, like I was saying before, more likely than not, one or two of the justices
yeah,
writes a short statement, in
yes,
favor of the denial,
right,
and states that, it's just factually, there's too many factual
yeah,
issues here. That's why we're not taking it.
yeah,
Just so, and I think the reason why it might even be the Chief Justice that does that. So there's so much conspiracy theory and politics behind this case that the Supreme Court's going to want to make sure that when it denies cert, it's not because it's trying to cover something up. And
right,
so there might be a statement to that effect, why we're not granting this petition. I don't think it's going to appease the conspiratorial minded out there, like
yeah,
nothing would. They're really dogmatic, but
yeah.
that's where I think this is going to go. And then, unfortunately, Ms. Maxwell will be at the mercy of this administration with respect to a pardon.
Yeah. Well,
May or may not happen down
that's
the
where
road.
I'm
Yeah.
getting at because I agree with you. I think she loses the appeal, whatever in the legal arena
Yeah.
she's challenging. So the question is, the big question mark, the enigma, if you will,
Mhm.
is when her appeals are done, she's got nothing left to lose. Like that was her whole avenue through the legal system. So
Well, she still has
that
2255.
yeah, I don't know what her grounds are there, but still has leverage. The way I see it, there's a few ways this can go. Another mysterious suicide.
Yeah.
Uh, quietly pardon her
Yeah.
because he's already said this is a hoax. I mean, I don't know which part of this is a hoax, but he could say, poor girl, wrapped up in a hoax. I'm going to pardon her. I don't know. Could I don't know. I don't know what like treaty transfer, Rule 35, something. The if the politics of this, the big
Well, if she
story
had,
that
I'll put it this way: if she has dirt on him still,
yeah,
if there is some where they suspect that there is some safety deposit box, some bank somewhere, some Swiss vault
yeah,
that has some stuff that Trump doesn't want to see the light of day, she's never getting out. No way.
but
Yeah.
She has
He'll
dirt.
keep.
She's got the leverage. So
She
how
has
does
the
she?
yeah. Well, she has
How
the
does
leverage, but she can't use it because as soon as he'll keep maybe teasing her to play along, but
mm,
as long as he's alive, she's not getting out. That's certain of that because as soon as she gets out, if he was to pardon her, then all his leverage is gone and she can start spilling the beans and to the highest bidder or whatever. And that's
but
probably
she
what
could
she'll
do
end up
that
doing.
now.
No, she can't. Not
Why?
well, yeah, she could do that now, but she will certainly never get out. So he's going to keep teasing it. He's going to keep saying the hoax and all this stuff, and maybe let me see if I can get her out and pardon her. We just got to wait for the right time. string her along like that until he's dead. He
Yeah.
ain't gonna let her out. That's just what I think.
So
That's
here's what I think. It all goes back to, how do you get a pardon in this regime? Cash and
yeah,
connections.
yeah.
She's got both. And whoever's going to be negotiating on her behalf is going to say, you get her out, you're never going to hear from her again. And if she gets out, she's got her freedom, and she
Oh,
has
I
an
know how she
option
does it.
to disappear into the woodwork and never
Yeah.
talk and never say a thing.
Just okay. I think just the opposite. I know how she gets out.
Okay.
She makes a statement about how Trump was never involved and never did this and never did that. And I was with Jeffrey all the time, and he never touched this and never did that. And when he was on the island, it was for 5 minutes to take a leak, and that was it. Boom.
Yeah.
And she comes out and says all that stuff and
Yeah.
swear affidavit, take a polygraph, and da 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 da. That's how she gets out.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's how.
he has every incentive to make that happen,
Yeah.
because he's freaking out, and this thing
Yeah.
is not this doesn't go away. This is the one story that will not fucking die.
Yeah.
And he's freaking out. And
The only thing
so
I would say, and I know we've been going on forever, but I have to say what really boggles my mind about this is how dogmatic and impervious to rationality his base is. So much so that him going on TV saying that he wanted to have sex with his daughter and date her if she wasn't his daughter, to openly, stating, getting caught on tape, talking about
bragging about sexual assault.
bragging about
Yeah.
sexually abusing a woman and
To
groping her
being
and all this other stuff.
formally adjudicated as a sexual offender in a civil trial.
And this will try, and then 34 felony convictions, and on and on and on, and selling state secrets to the Russians and the Saudis, and
Right.
keeping all of that stuff in his, gilded throne toilet, bathroom down there in Mar-a-Lago. So all that stuff doesn't matter. I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and I won't lose a
Yeah.
vote. Oh no, he'll gain votes,
Yeah.
and that none of that has ever
But
mattered.
this seems
So
to
why
matter.
would this matter? Why? And why now? It's not like people haven't seen him
Tell
with
you
Epstein
why.
and all that stuff.
Dude, I will tell
Why?
you why.
Why?
Because his diehard supporters have they've been sold this bill of goods that there's this elite cabal of pedophiles who have been controlling the world and controlling the government and the deep state, and Hillary and Pizzagate and the libs and the Dems are the evil Satanists, and Trump was their savior who is going to expose everything and right the system and save the world. And that is
Wait,
how
wait, wait,
so
wait.
many
I'm
of
sorry.
them view him.
This was the
That
setback. He has never kept any of his promises in that. Mexico will pay for the wall. They'll lose any votes.
those are not the sexy promises. This is the
He
thing
ran
that
on that stuff.
I
I'm
know,
going to
but who's
deport. I'm
paying
going to
attention?
deport everybody.
Dude,
He's deported less
QAnon,
people than
Q,
Biden.
QAnon is not talking about the wall and immigration and tariffs and whatever. QAnon is talking about the cabal of elite pedophiles who are
Yeah.
eating babies, who are literally eating babies, drinking their blood,
If a
feeding off of the
video comes out,
adrenochrome.
if a video comes out of Trump eating a baby and drinking its blood, he will not lose any votes. He will
Okay,
gain votes.
because they would say, well, that's fake news. That's a deep fake.
No, they don't
But
care.
but
They don't care.
all they wanted from him was to destroy the deep state, to expose these horrible pedophile people. And they
Well, that's a
were,
different issue.
it's not, because it's tied up with the Epstein file. That the Epstein file
Well,
is the embodiment of
okay.
everything
Well,
that
there's two
QAnon
things.
stood for.
So there's two things here. One, either he's not releasing it because he's afraid there's going to be some type of incriminating evidence against him that he
100%.
that was see I well if that's the case, he has nothing to worry about. I was like, hey dummy, they're not going to care. They're not going to care if you're a real pedophile in the term of the DSM stuff and you're out there killing babies and drinking their blood. They're not going to care. They will excuse you for it. They don't even have to say it's fake news or anything. They'll be fine. The second thing is where I think you may be right, or you probably right, is there's no there. There's no big cabal of secret elitists. It was just a bunch of, it's the usual suspects, the dirty old men that we already knew about. Trump and, well, I don't even want to name anybody else because I don't want to end up with some unknown ghost showing up here
Yes.
tonight. But Trump and others, the usual suspects.
So
So,
what? They release all the information, and it's just not juicy enough.
it's
So
not
that
juicy enough. That's the thing. I think they're not going to release it because there's not juice there. There's really nothing there. When they said there's really nothing there, they actually meant that there's really nothing there. And everyone was like, what the hell? You said there was something there. And there's really nothing there. And that's what they're afraid of. I don't think they're afraid that there's going to
well,
come out that he's a baby killer blood drinker because nobody cares about that. And he
okay,
knows that.
but so then what's happening? I mean, you're right. He could say, I mean, he's already sort of teed this up to say, there's probably things in there that aren't credible and they're made up about people.
Yeah.
Me, so
Yeah.
he's already sort of greased the skids there. So he
Yeah.
could, even if he was all over that, he could say, well, that's fake news. That was designed to smear me and to damage me politically, even though all this shit happened long before he was ever running for
Look, if,
president.
if
But
there was
but
if there was a
why?
bunch of juice, okay, look, if there was a bunch of juice about him, somebody would have leaked it during the Biden administration. If there was a bunch of juice about Biden or Democrats and Clinton and stuff, and going down there and killing babies and having sex with everything, it would have been leaked by now. And and there have been so many civil lawsuits and so much discovery and so many top private investigators from all over the world all over this issue. Nobody has found shit because there's nothing there. That's the thing. It was just a bunch of frat guys kind of going, really rich frat guys going down there and having sex
Mhm.
parties.
So
It was
you
basically
actually
P.
sounds like
Diddy.
you believe
Yeah.
Donald Trump and saying there's just no there, and there's nothing to release. So let's
Well, I
stop
think
talking about it.
I believe that there really is no there other than I do believe that there is some incriminating shit about Trump, and that's also pushing. But I don't understand why he cares. It's just like the infamous pee tape. If that tape came out with some prostitutes peeing on him on a bed, this is what right when he was first elected, when this all came out, he'd gain votes. People with the folks here in Ohio would love that. Well, really great. There'd be
I
videos
don't
all over.
agree. I don't agree with this push to put sugarcane in Coke because that would destroy the corn industry. But I am all in favor of his Russian prostitutes peeing
Yeah,
on
I know
Barack Obama's
exactly.
bed.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
actually pretty cool because it was
yeah,
Obama's bed they're supposedly peeing
yeah.
on.
Right. Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
I don't listen. I Occam's razor, man.
This
We
is Occam's razor.
do
There's nothing
not.
there.
Well,
That's the
they've.
easiest explanation
Uh,
why they're not releasing anything.
so your premise
Otherwise,
that
you
it
have
would have been leaked in the Biden administration, I think, is a little faulty because the Biden administration, to their detriment, goes by the book. Is very, very like. That's why Trump's not in fucking jail right now because
true.
they
No,
want to do
you're right.
everything
You're
like,
right.
oh no, that would be we couldn't
Okay,
leak that.
then I revised
That
that.
would
You're
be
right. You're right. You're right. Then I
so.
revised that. I said it would have been leaked during the first Trump administration.
But if you just look at what we do know of his brotherhood with this guy,
Yeah.
they're sharing women.
Yeah.
That this Wall Street Journal article, it's absolutely true. Rupert Murdoch's not going to risk another $700 million defamation suit and publish this picture
Right.
of with him, his love letter, his poem about our little enigma, our secrets. Like he is so deeply implicated
Yeah.
in this, and there's enough independent evidence to suggest that. So to say there's no there is very hard for me to
Well, I mean,
swallowed.
no,
He
they're okay. I
is
mean, they're in a sense of a
scared.
big cabal, in a
But
big cabal. It might all
why
just point
is
to him.
then
Maybe it
why
all
didn't
just
he
points
just
to
say, dude, yeah, we were friends. Did you ever
yeah,
see that movie? Oh, it was with Harrison Ford and he's a CIA agent. It's one of these series. I can't remember what it is,
like
but
Jack Ryan. It's like Jack
yes.
Ryan. Yeah,
Yeah. And there's a
yeah.
scene where he's meeting with the president. The president, his good buddy has gotten all this trouble.
Mm.
And the president's like, we need to distance ourselves from him. And Harrison Ford is like, no, you
Yeah,
need to embrace him and say, we weren't just good friends, we were lifelong friends. And I'm
yeah,
shocked, like
yep.
Trump
I
could
remember
have
that scene.
gone,
Yeah.
yeah, and just own
Well,
it.
he needs a Jack Ryan. See,
He
that's the thing.
needs a
He's getting
fucking
bad
Jack Ryan.
advice.
He's got a fucking Stephen Miller instead
Yeah,
of a
he has a
Jack
Stephen
Ryan.
Miller. Yeah, well, see, that's this problem. Is Grandma Wormtongue is giving him some really shitty advice. He should
What is
embrace
Grandma
Epstein.
Wormtongue? I've never heard that.
Grandma, oh my God, you're not a Lord of the Rings fan?
Uh, no.
Oh my God, Doug.
I
Oh
mean,
wow, I have to reevaluate our
I
relationship.
might have read the book because I was forced to in fucking junior high.
Yeah,
I've
two
sat
in two
through,
towers, Grandma Wormtongue.
a few of those 3 hour debacle movies that
Oh,
Peter
debacle
Jackson
movies. They're
did,
awesome movies.
and
The original three.
either had a very expensive nap or wanted to fucking cram, chopstick in my pee hole because it was so excruciating.
There was this king in the two towers, and he was under the influence of this advisor, this guy, and it was called the advisor's name was Grandma Wormtongue, and was feeding him all this bad advice and stuff because Grandma Wormtongue turned out to be an agent of Sauron. That's who Grandma
Okay.
Wormtongue. So that's Stephen Miller, and he kind of looks like Grandma Wormtongue too. This weaselly little, ugly
Yeah.
guy, kind of rat
Bald
faced and all this stuff.
scumbag.
I mean, he is scumbag. He fits Grandma Wormtongue to a T.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
there
Trump's
you go.
getting some bad advice. He
Yeah,
could
he's
have
getting bad
said,
advice.
yeah, we were buddies.
Yeah,
Sure, I flew on his plane. Of course, I flew on his plane. Went to his
yeah,
beautiful island. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I'm married. I don't know. I'm not doing whatever this is going on. That's not my thing. But yeah, of
yeah,
course, we were
yeah,
pals.
yeah. So that I mean, and that's so. In addition to Occam's razor, there's also Hanlon's razor, and
Yeah.
Hanlon's razor says never ascribe malice to that which can be explained by incompetence. And so that's really that's what all of this is about. It's not some, they're trying to hide something that's really evil
Yeah.
or this big secret out there. It's
Well,
just that it's
does
just a bunch of
Hanlon's
incompetent
okay,
stuff.
but does
Yeah.
Hanlon's razor apply when the subject of the razor is drowning in a black sea of malice? Like their whole fucking life has been defined by malice. Like if it were
I
me, I
see
would hope people
incompetent.
would
I mean,
give.
I think,
If
yeah,
it were
yeah.
me, I would hope someone would give me a benefit of the doubt and say never ascribe malice to Doug because he's pretty good, decent dude in the grand scheme of things. But does that apply equally
That
based
apply. Look, yeah,
to anyone?
Trump to pretty much anyone, including
Like
Trump.
so I could
Trump is
fuck a
not.
porn star. I could
Trump
pay
is
them
not
off. I
evil.
could steal the. I'm gonna
He's
go
not
down
an
a list.
evil
This
genius.
could
Look,
take another hour to
I
go
know
down the
he's
list
not
of
an
all the
evil
malice.
genius. He's not an evil genius.
No,
Trump
but
is anything but
he's
he's not a
not a
genius.
but he's not a good actor
Evil
either.
moron.
He's
That's
but he's yeah. I don't know,
he's an
man.
evil moron.
So if
Not an evil
if we have a
genius.
client and they've been
Yeah,
convicted, they have 6 priors,
yeah.
you could go before the judge and say Hanlon's razor, don't ascribe ill intent
Yeah,
to
this guy's
them.
a moron,
He's just a
Judge.
dum dum.
Yes, he's a dumb dumb. Exactly.
Here's
Because if he was an evil genius, he wouldn't even be in here. He would be
here's
out there still criming with
well, he is.
impunity.
I mean, arguably, he is out there still criming with impunity. But this is,
Well, he has 36
and this is
convictions. He keeps getting sued.
and
There's
yeah, but he keeps getting bill. He's quadrupled his net worth since he's taken office. So how does
yeah,
that work?
I seriously doubt that. I'd like to see the books on that. Just everyone's investing in his, you know, Bitcoin shit.
Green
I
coin.
want to see. Yeah, that's just we all know what that is. That's not actual money that he has. That is just a vehicle for bribes. We all know that.
Okay,
That's what
but
the.
but
It's just another
bribes are
version of his
money.
real
Or
estate.
yes, I
Yeah.
well, here I okay. Well, I guess you'd make a good defense lawyer for the man. So he might he might.
He's incompetent.
I
That's
guess
all.
my main concern is that all the ghosts and apparitions that are floating around your house have possessed you demonically, and that you have somehow convinced yourself that he's he's just a dum dum and not a fucking arch criminal
He's not
hemophile.
Lex Luthor. No, thank God. Thank God he is not Lex Luthor. If this guy had half a brain,
That's
we would be
Elon.
in much worse straits.
You have teenage daughters, right?
Yes.
Would you let them in a room alone with the guy?
Nope.
Are we done?
We're done, man.
It's like 7:30 your time,
It is.
and
It is.
I barely have anything left in my beautiful bottle of Fortaleza still strength.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
out on my
All
Dr.
right.
Pepper.
Well, it's
So
been a pleasure, my friend,
it
and
has.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out on Sunday
Okay.
afternoon.
Very good, Doug. Thank
Peace
you.
out. All
Okay.
right. Beware of the ghosts. They're all gonna die in there. That's it for today, but before we go, I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to you, the listener, for spending time with us today getting set for sentencing. Whether you're a lawyer, someone who could use the help, or maybe you're just a true crime buff who loves the inside scoop on how this whole thing works. If you're interested in knowing more about what I do, mitigation videos, case consults, live teaching, on-demand educational content, books, articles, all of it, please visit www.dougpassonlaw.com. I'm Doug Passon. Until next time, hang in there. Wait a minute, that's a stupid way to sign off on a podcast about sentencing. Hang in there. What's the matter with you, man? I guess they call that gallows humor. Sorry. All right. Well, I will see you next time on Set for Sentencing. Bye-bye.